You know what Sony had? The Holy Trinity. Leo, Brad, and Margot. Who do you have?
This week, we're doing A Star is Born, again, the 1954 version, starring Judy Garland and James Mason. This is Boy Party. Hey!
What?
I just wanted to record another podcast with you. Hello, and welcome to Boy Party, the podcast about movies where two major stars share the screen and battle it out for first billing, the fattest paycheck, and the most acclaim. My name is Lucian, and I'm joined, as always, by Shane Kelly.
Good afternoon.
The washed-up movie star who's going to discover me and take me to new heights.
New heights.
We have discussed A Star is Born movie before in this podcast, and I'm wondering, did I do an intro then where I put us into the Cooper and Gaga roles? I'll have to go back and listen.
I'd imagine so.
It was very early in our run, so I might not have figured out this exact intro format.
Oh, yes.
yet.
I feel like we stopped doing the intro gag briefly.
We might
Or
have.
we decided not to do it from the beginning, but then
I eventually
just kind of
got into doing it.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to A Star is Born 1954 edition. We have sort of half committed to doing A Star is Born per year. We have been just over a year now since we discussed the 2018 movie, directed by Bradley Cooper, starring him and Lady Gaga. And we are jumping all over in time because we could have gone backwards, probably. Would have made perfect sense for us to do the Streisand Christopherson version.
And we have watched that.
We've watched it, and he died recently. But I think it's just the fact that we had done Streisand last year in What's Up Doc. I don't have much else to say about her. So we are jumping all over in time, and I'm using this as an excuse to discuss Judy Garland and James Mason, two people that we have yet to discuss on this show, two icons of mid-century American cinema, and we are going to discuss them and this movie today, and of course, draw some comparisons with this movie and the 2018 version, and also with the 1970s version. But we'll save our 70s, 80s? What year is the other version? Yeah, 70s. We'll save our main discussion of that for its own episode, I'm sure. It stars
So is the gap between this and the Streisand one significantly shorter than...
Right, so let's,
what are the order
let's
of the
discuss
Stars
that.
is
So
Born?
the first official version of A Star is Born is in 1937, and that's the only one I haven't seen. And it stars Janet Gaynor and Frederick March, and I do really want to see it.
Yeah.
So you've got 1937 to 1954. So you're talking 17 years?
Yeah.
My maths is terrible, folks. You're
That's
bachelor.
pretty good.
Then we've got a 22-year gap to the Streisand version. That is crazy.
22 years.
22 years feels like a very short window between what this movie is and what that movie is. That is
The
drastic
progression in what cinema was and what it looked like
is extraordinary.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is a film that fits into the modern world of filmmaking perfectly fine.
That is a modern action. There's action in it. There's helicopters.
Yeah,
there's car crashes.
it's shot and edited and scored in a contemporary way. It also features people who have been in movies with Seth Rogen and Ben Stiller and Gary Busey, and that helps. This belongs to 100 years ago world. Like, this belongs to a world where things were in black and white.
This is a single angle set built on a studio lot.
Yeah, like it's just a completely different world. 22 years is insane as a short window.
Yeah.
Then you have 42-year gap. Is that 76 to 18? 32, 42? 42-year gap.
72 to 16.
42-year gap,
Yeah.
which is nuts. And I don't really understand what happened there. We talked about it on that movie's episode. I'm sure why it took so long to get made. That movie was in the works for a while. There was also, I think, and this is something I've heard people say before, it's not my original take, there was a sense that The Bodyguard had filled that slot in the 90s.
It's a de facto.
And it's a de facto Star is Born movie, even though it has nothing in common with A Star is Born plot-wise.
But it was
at
the
all.
kind of the generational music talent of the era got their movie.
Whitney Houston would have been in the mix to play this part, and like you got your kind of, you know, grumpy
guy
middle-aged man and younger female.
It hits a lot of the casting beats and types. So yeah, no, I'm happy.
Are there any movies in the 2000s that do? Not really. I'm trying to think of any of like big female.
Is Burlesque a Star is Born?
I mean, for sure. Burlesque is A Star is Born with the romance taken out of it.
Yeah.
You'll have heard that on last week's episode, folks. But I have a fun fact for you. Judy Garland is the only person we have discussed, and this is not surprising, the only person we have discussed on this podcast who another actor has won an Oscar for portraying in a film.
Okay.
And this is, of course, Renée Zellweger in the 2019 film Judy, which I have refused to watch because, A, I hate Renée Zellweger. She will most likely never be discussed on this podcast.
You're very harsh.
B, that movie looks like shit, and I have no idea. I couldn't even tell you who directed it. Mm-hmm. Looks like absolute dog shit. And C, I have... Life is too difficult already for me to sit down and watch a movie about a woman suffering horribly, and in the mid
it did not end
Hollywood
well for
studio
Judy
system.
Garland. Unfortunately,
We're gonna we'll touch upon what was going on with her, but I do not want to sit down and watch a film of someone suffering that just if it's not particularly artfully made, I don't need that. But she's the first person we've ever discussed who someone has played in a biopic that won an Oscar. But we have covered other actors who have been played by people in movies.
Yeah.
So I have a little quiz
that
I'm sure you're going to do.
So you're going to give me the modern actor.
I'm going to tell you the person who played an actor who has been discussed on Boy Party in a biopic or in something.
So we're not counting actors who played younger versions of the actor in a flashback in the same
film. No. These are people who have played the real actor in a biopic or in a true story. Cool. And I'll give you the year. So let's start off with the easiest one. Jason Isaacs in 2024.
This is Cary Grant.
Cary Grant in the show Archie on ITV.
Archie.
Next up, who did Naomi Ackie play in 2022?
Naomi Ackie.
Yeah. And the name of the person is in the title of this movie.
Whitney
Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody, written by Anthony McCartan.
I was going to say was the Judy Garland film a bit of an Anthony McCartan vibe?
He definitely didn't write that. I don't know who wrote it. Yeah. The funny thing about Judy, the Renée Zellweger movie, is that the working title of the new Tom Cruise Inarritu film is also Judy. Oh. And I'm wondering, are they going to go with that title, which they're currently referring to it as, or is the Judy Garland movie so fucking forgotten already that you could just release another movie called Judy? I think so. 6 years later.
No, Inarritu is obviously very susceptible to releasing things that are forgotten.
Such as?
What
Bardo?
Huh?
Bardo,
yeah.
Yeah, Bardo. Bardo, which is not that bad.
Sure.
BoJack Horseman underwater episode, the movie.
Yeah.
Not that bad. All right. Who did Bradley Constant play from 2021 until 2023?
So this is a character in a television show.
Bradley Constant.
Interesting. And is this show set in like the film world?
That's a tough question. No, not primarily.
This isn't like
not really. I don't think so. I think this is mostly set not in the film world.
Okay. And is the person being depicted the main person in this, or are they just a passing character?
Correct. The person being depicted is the main person in this.
Right. Are they're dead?
No, they're alive.
Oh, they're alive.
Yeah.
Huh.
This is set like 40 years ago. 35, 45 years ago, probably.
Right. So they were famous in the 80s.
No, they weren't. This is a young actor.
No, not the actor. I'm saying the person.
This is a young actor, though. The person who's playing this actor is young.
Yes, I'm aware.
Yeah. So it's a young iteration of this movie star.
But this movie star wasn't.
This is so confusing. This is confusing because we're using the words actors interchangeably.
This movie star was
not famous in the 80s or 90s. No, but the show is set in the 80s and 90s. Yes, correct.
So it's this person as a child.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay. And the whole show is that.
Okay, what? Okay, so what famous person was being depicted as a child when they weren't famous?
Yes.
Is it because they were a child of somebody famous?
No, not really. Kind of, but no, not really.
Fuck.
The show is just about the childhood of a famous actor.
Can you give me more hints on the actor?
I don't know. We discussed them on episode 3 of the show.
Episode 3?
Or episode 4? Yeah.
Oh, really early. Is this Dwayne Johnson?
Correct. Yeah. This is Young Rock.
Young Rock.
Right, I got 2 more for you. Who did Anthony Ippolito play in 2022? This is also in a TV show, but he's a passing character. This is a show about the making of a movie. And this guy plays an actor in it.
Is this Fablemans or something?
No, it's a show.
No. Or it's a show.
Show about the making of a great movie. And this guy plays like the star of the movie in like.
And this is a movie we've covered. We didn't cover this movie.
No, we've covered this actor in something else.
Okay. What movie had a show about the making of it?
Yeah, like one of the most iconic movies of all time that they made a show.
Oh, The Godfather.
Yeah.
This is The Offer.
Correct.
And he plays Brandon?
He plays Al Pacino.
Al Pacino.
There you go.
Yeah.
Finally, who did Nicholas Podany play in 2024, but like released in Ireland in 2025? Very recently.
Oh.
Nicholas Podany.
Podany.
Person he played has been covered on this podcast in the last 10 weeks?
Ooh.
8 weeks? Yeah.
Is it an American actor?
Yeah. And this is a movie that came out this year.
A movie? I'm not going to afford myself the time. Just tell me.
This is Billy Crystal in Saturday Night.
Oh, yeah. That's a sneaky one. I wouldn't have got there.
I think I did a pretty good job with that quiz.
That was good, yeah.
It wasn't as difficult as the Pop Girly quiz.
I got all 4 of them. So
got all 4 of them.
And not the last one. But.
So, Star is Born, 1954, directed by George Cukor, who you'll be delighted to hear is the second Cukor we've covered because this is the man who gave us the Philadelphia Story. And let me tell you, he tried to get Cary Grant to be in this movie. Oh, did he try?
Oh, did he try?
So we wanted a big, famous male actor to play. The Wikipedia page for this movie is written really weird, where like the person who wrote it is like editorializing, being like, if you're not going to get a famous woman, you may as well have Oscar Levant in the movie. And I'm like, that's an insulting thing to say about Oscar Levant.
Don't.
So he offered it to Cary Grant, who he had directed 3 times before, and read the entire script through with him. And Cary Grant thought it was the role of a lifetime, but he wanted to go traveling with his wife, Betsy Drake. And this is around the same time that he turns down Roman Holiday and Sabrina. 3 bangers that he missed out on there because he wanted to go traveling with his wife. I mean...
Gotta love a man who has respect for the work-life balance.
I know. Like, in fairness, sure. But like...
His wife, who he loved dearly.
I know. Who he had a straight sexual relationship with.
Probably.
I think Sabrina is better off without Cary Grant.
Yeah.
Roman Holiday is better off without Cary Grant. This movie's better off without Cary Grant. What am I talking about? These are all good movies that worked out well.
Like all of, I think we have an image of Cary Grant in our head of being too perfect. Where all the 3 films you mentioned have
the great leading man. Like we don't
have great leading men that all have their own kind of weird, almost negative quirks that make the roles more interesting.
Bogart, Holden, fucking Peck, and Mason do not need to be swapped out for Cary Grant. These are some of our greatest actors of all time.
James Mason has a weirdness to him that Cary Grant wouldn't have in this.
Absolutely.
So he's always smiling a little bit too much all the time.
Oh, it's great. So then Humphrey Bogart, Frank Sinatra were both rejected by Mr. Warner Brothers, who didn't want either of them.
Yeah, Frank Sinatra in this doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. John Hodiak is thrown around, Stuart Granger, and then eventually James Mason. So he's like the 8th choice for this, but they got really lucky there. I mean, he's such a what a weird choice, you know? And like not a conventionally handsome leading man, although people pretended he was at various points.
I think he is.
I think the closest comparison now, and I do not mean to draw parallels between a seriously inferior actor and James Mason, but I guess it's like if Hugh Grant was in this now. I
was thinking Steve Buscemi and his
Steve Buscemi. Well, I'm trying to think of English guys,
guys, yeah.
Like Matthew McFadden? Like someone who's just kind of like an English West End guy who they're trying very hard to like make his weird thing into a traditional movie star thing.
No, not he's too goofy.
The thing with James Mason as well is like he's much younger than he seems. Like he talks like a guy in his 60s throughout his entire career, but he isn't in his 60s until he's in his 60s. Mm-hmm. Weirdest thing, the film was originally announced to be made in 3D. What were they doing with 3D in the 50s? They didn't know what they were doing. You're going to make this movie in 3D? Like, oh, great. The fucking drinking and public humiliation sequences popping out of the screen into your audience's lap. Like,
no, there are some big musical sequences and stuff that maybe...
There are. I see this film classified as a musical online.
Yeah, I was just about to ask.
This does not fulfill my definition of a musical.
I think this fulfills the definition of a musical more than the other one does.
More than 2018?
Yeah.
Barely. Okay, it's a musical in the sense that
what is being shot within the film is for a musical.
Yes.
They're shooting musical films.
So there's no dreamy sequences where music takes over the narrative.
No.
Music is performed within the music. People perform songs because they're asked to perform songs.
Yeah.
This is the same with the 2018 movie. It's the same with the 70s movie, and it's the same with The Bodyguard.
Yeah.
I don't think of that as a musical.
I don't either.
The the music biopic genre will often do the same thing, where people will classify a music biopic as a musical when in fact it's just an artist performing their songs in the narrative of the film. An exception, and this is why this film is so good, is Better Man, where the songs that Robbie is singing in some scenes, it's because he's performing on a stage, and in many other scenes he's singing them
driving a car,
or having a hallucinatory moment
down the street,
having a mental breakdown. So it's way more, that's what a true musical is to me. The issue they have here with the fact that it is musical is that James Mason is not a singer, he's not a musical talent, his character isn't involved in music. If you have Sinatra in this, you do probably have more maybe duets between the two, Sinatra singing his own songs, and maybe the movie starts to become more of a real musical. But when one of the two leads can't sing,
he gets no musical number at all.
He gets no musical number at all. The most he ever does is just watch her dancing around.
He's a retired like stage man.
Yes.
He's not really an actor.
No. He's kind of an actor, but he's kind of like a silly movie star. I don't think he's like a well-respected actor. Like when she's at the Oscars and he shows up, I don't think the idea is that he too was part of this gang.
Yeah.
He's not perceived as one of the Oscar caliber the way that she has become.
Yeah.
But I think that like it doesn't help this movie that the musical sequences are like a little bit flat because you're only watching her performing in a musical sequence, and there's no
the songs aren't specifically built around how she's feeling at the time.
No, the songs are like, I list some of the fucking songs in this for you, but like these are not songs that carry with them the emotion of the characters.
You nearly have to find the emotion about her character in the way she is kind of feeling uncomfortable that she has to do this at work. It's someone upset at their job and just has to do their task.
And like you're watching Judy Garland, who is literally in the middle of one of the great tragic movie star careers, is struggling so much before, during, and after this. And you're like, there is an insane amount of nuanced suffering in this woman's performing style that is like heartbreaking to watch in this film, especially when the film does pull in certain elements of her real life, although kind of attributes her addiction and stuff to the James Mason character rather than to her character. But you're like, okay, I'm actually moved by elements of this, but it's probably more so because I know Judy Garland is really like working hard to communicate something. Like the songs in this movie, I can't sing a single one of these. The Man That Got Away, I'll Get By, You Took Advantage of Me, written by Richard Rodgers and Lorenz Hart. The Black Bottom, The Peanut Vendor, My Melancholy Baby, It's a New World, Lose That Long Face. These are deeply forgettable songs. Whereas even the Streisand version, there's like 2 or 3 bangers in there.
And it ends on one.
It ends on like a huge banger, but also like Evergreen, the duet from that is a huge hit that still gets played in the radio and stuff.
That's it. The duet is I wonder, is there duets in the first one?
I'd love to know. I don't think the first one is a musical though. I imagine there is singing in it. Well, look, we'll have to watch it. And I don't know if we're going to cover it in this podcast because I'm not familiar with the actors in it. But maybe we'll talk about it some more another time. But the problem with the other thing with this, I guess, relative to the 2 later versions, is that it's less of a boy party in how the marketing is run. The poster that I'm looking at here is a big Judy Garland face. The names are equally sized, but a big Judy Garland face, and James Mason's just kind of hanging around in the background.
I think that's a fun dynamic for the 50s.
It is, but it's funny that they got such an outsized female star versus a male star.
Again, the 8th choice probably.
The 8th choice versus the first choice. I mean, the whole movie's built around her and her reputation and her talents.
Was he a lead at this point, or was he kind of just a character actor?
He was a lead, just about, but like he was a lead of a funny type, and he was the lead who was still kind of making the transition
Was he being paired with the mega female actress?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think James Mason's shtick was ever really being paired with big female actresses, because he's not a romantic leading man. He's kind of an interesting,
wasn't in there with the Hepburns and
edgy leading man. Like, no, I don't think so. I mean, there are films he probably pops up in that Katharine Hepburn might be in, but like, but as you say, we're watching this and it's 3 hours long, and like the version we watched is 3 hours long. To the best of my knowledge, there is an even longer version that exists.
Oh yeah, we have to get into some funny technical details here.
Yeah, because apparently half an hour was cut out after the premiere of the film. So there's like basically Cukor's cut is missing half an hour. a chunk of that half hour, the audio is discovered. So, like, I mean, I could read this out verbatim, but I think it's actually just more interesting to try and remember what it is. Basically, they find the audio in somebody's house, like
just somebody's stash.
Somebody had stolen a bunch of stuff from the studio, and they dig through their stash and they find the audio recordings of multiple scenes that were cut out and lost.
Yeah,
this is in 1980s, like
30 years later,
and they can't find the visuals, but they do have an insane number of unit photographs of every scene. So what you see, if you now put on the 178-minute cut of this film, which is available on streaming and whatnot, is there are several scenes in the middle of the film where photographs are put on screen and you hear the full recorded audio. Mm-hmm. It's an insane experience.
Yeah, I don't know what I would have done if you weren't there to drop this piece of information on me. Would I have just thought this is a weird stylistic choice?
But that was my experience the last time I watched it.
Yeah, you didn't know.
I had no idea what I was looking at.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really weird.
Like, is this a weird attempt at a kind of a montage?
Yeah, like, exactly. Is this like a crazy thing they did in the video? Because the only thing it's comparable to is the Chris Marker film La Jetée, which is like, does this as a stylistic choice for the entire running time. It's nuts. But it does take you out of the action a little bit, I think. It's cool and weird and interesting, but it's an accident. It's not deliberate.
Sure, but at the same time, there's another version of this film where these scenes were not considered necessary.
I know. So you're like, you could just
no, to be fair, you said, like, there's a half an hour added into this. Only about 4 to 7 minutes or something.
They didn't find the full half hour
of the footage was gone. So they found 20-odd minutes of the footage.
Oh, I think it's the other way around.
There's not 20 minutes of still photos.
No, I think there's 7 minutes of still photos.
Yeah, that's
and
what
they
I'm saying.
and they lost the rest.
That was my point.
But apparently there are musical numbers that are lost forever. Like, but I think because there's no point putting musical numbers back in with photographs, I suppose. But I think
you can do a nice intermission with just
yeah, exactly. The issue is that it wasn't cut up by the director; it was cut to bits by the idiots in the studio. So for all we know, the best bits of the film were cut out.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's 3 hours long.
All the James Mason singing scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like that.
He's doing his brilliant singing voice. I do think this film, it drags and it's really long and it's a story we've seen done before.
Yeah, I think
when
we're so familiar with the story, we're kind of just like, all right, get to the point here.
Because we know all the exciting stuff happens at the end.
Yeah.
I also think Star is Born 2018, the middle act sucks. Like, it's not good. But at least it's kind of providing some amusing commentary on modern day popular culture. Like, that middle act is terrible.
What happens? That's her going on her pop career.
You get her going on SNL, introduced by Alec Baldwin, and you get the billboard going up and all this. And him bickering with Sam Elliott about his, concert tech. There is then really tiresome bits like the Dave Chappelle stuff. But at least it's all contemporary. Whereas the middle act of this also kind of sucks. But there's not really anything about it.
It's kind of just her at work, I guess.
Yeah, it's just her shooting a film in with a 20-minute musical number that isn't that great. Looks pretty cool, but it's not. Yeah. It's like George Cukor, bless him, is not a great musical director. This is not a Vincent Minnelli film, so it's like, this is kind of dragging. And
is the length essential for kind of building to the ending? Like, all of these are quite long.
Yeah, they are all very long. I think the Streisand one, the length really worked for me because I thought the script was a little wonky, but to be honest, at a certain point, I was like, I've spent enough time with these characters now that I really care about what happens.
And they're kind of like fun to just kind of look at, regardless.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like beautiful, like attractive people in a certain way.
Sunny LA, and you're like,
this is just like, they're not in the same room a lot. I feel like there's a lot of her on her own, and again, I'm kind of watching it being like, she's not happy.
And like when you're kind of stuck with the limitations of the 50s, you can't kind of go off on little geographical adventures.
Like they're kind of stuck to the sets that they're stuck to. So it needs to have a little bit more of an upbeat story in order to, or fresh elements that aren't in the other versions in order to keep us.
Were you bought into the relationship here?
No, not really. No, I don't think so. I think that like they're a little bit too at odds with each other as types. Like, she's such a certain type of Hollywood girl. And
like he at a certain point
from England, and you're like, well, I don't know, like what is also James Mason, unfortunately, given a lot of his roles a little bit too like creep coded, and kind of like he has played pedophiles and stuff.
Yeah,
and she's not. Judy Garland is not that young in this. but she's kind of reads as younger than him, where you're kind of like, I don't know, he just seems kind of creepy. I feel like any of his behavior towards any woman is creepy,
like
especially
he's a little bit too enthusiastic at the beginning.
Also, he's famous and wealthy, and she's like a newcomer he's discovered.
Yeah,
in a random club,
there's not much there in terms of why she likes him, apart from the fact that he helped her.
Yeah,
and she kind of feels eternally grateful for this.
Yeah,
and I guess they're like Bradley Cooper has a kind of a cool man thing. Chris Christopherson is obviously very. Very sexy in his own right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see why these couples kind of function outside of the benefits they've given each other at certain points.
Yeah, I think so. And then, as you said, there was nothing that you get more locked into than the third act of The Star Is Born.
Who were we watching this with?
Pierce and Isabel.
The room went quiet for 20 minutes.
None of you had been paying any attention.
No.
And I was on my phone. Yeah. I've seen this a year or two ago.
Once we saw the kind of the rumblings of the ending coming up.
I remember clearly thinking that the death scene in this was extraordinary. So I wanted everyone to shut up and listen.
I'm sorry. I fucking locked in.
Everything from James Mason's death onwards is incredible in this.
Yeah.
He basically in this the Oscars, the scene where Bradley Cooper pisses himself at the Grammys, this movie, the equivalent is that she wins an Oscar. James Mason then basically stands up at the back of the room and goes, "Darling, you've won your Oscar," and he kind of like drunkenly marches up to the stage while she's accepting her award and humiliates her and falls down the stairs.
It's less sloppy, but it's more.
It's a little bit hard to believe, but
stagey, theatrical kind of. He's making clear points and talking clearly for certain elements of it, and then kind of falls down.
So he then has a big drunken incident where he gets arrested, and she's like, "I'll look after him," and she takes him home and to this like beach house, where basically she's like, "I'm going to look after you," and he is, I'm feeling better already, darling. And then he overhears her talking to the other guy,
the manager, I guess.
And your man's like, "You're not going to give up your whole career for this drunken buffoon," and she's like, "I would do anything for him. I love him." Going away. And James Mason is like, "I cannot let her ruin her life for me. I am nothing but chaos." And James Mason is like, "Just going for a swim, darling.
I'm fixing myself. I'm getting into sea swims."
And then he goes...
It's very funny. He's like, "I'm getting into exercise now."
He trudges down to the beach, and you just kind of see him like going for his swim. And then it just cuts to these like...
It's his bathrobe.
Yeah, the bathrobe washing up on the beach, and these silent shots of the door of the beach house. Oh, I'm getting chills even talking about it. It's amazing.
No, it is never completely explicit whether it's like, no.
You can assume it's a suicide from his body language up until that moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's the standard Star Is Born thing of at a certain point he realizes what a burden he is, and that the
and
old
at a certain point sometimes it's just easier to kill yourself than give up drinking.
God, yeah, and in this character's case, like he's clearly lost like several generations of battles with alcoholism at this point.
I think so.
And he's just a bit done.
No, I don't remember having this kind of like as much of a criticism of this in the Bradley Cooper version, but like, buddy, you could just like try a little bit harder and help your wife out, maybe.
I don't know. He's an addict and he's suffering and he's depressed.
Yeah, I guess
I can't tell James Mason in 1956 as A Star Is Born that he needs to sort his shit out.
Like, is it really easier to like traumatize your wife rather than just try and?
I think he's in this moment thinking that she's going to be able to move on and be a bigger star without him, and I think that's.
No, to be fair, I agree with that, considering I didn't think the relationship was the most stable thing in the world anyway.
I also don't think that he's adding much to her profile in this film, because he's just kind of an older, washed-up actor who's pulled her into the studio system.
From a perspective of love.
I know, but they're not performing. They're not performing shallow together. At gigs. It's not as if he's a part of her popularity. He's someone she's romantically passionate about, and also he's pulled her into this network. Yeah, he's helped her get opportunity.
It's just an interesting dynamic when the choice is, I have to literally die to stop harming this person.
I know, it gives you much to think about.
It's a bit narcissistic and self-serving in some ways,
but it's cinematic.
It is.
It's really cinematic, and you see why they keep using that ending. They keep doing that ending,
and it fucking hits every time.
It hits every time. I know. All three are fantastic.
Yeah.
So this one, so the other two kind of both end with great big singing scenes from her. In this one, it's just kind of
she goes off the grid for about a month.
She goes to the funeral and people are asking her questions and she's like, leave me alone, leave me alone.
There's an absolutely horrendous bit of her coming out of the funeral. She's wearing a veil. The paparazzi storm her and her veil gets ripped off.
Oh, it's just like so aggressive.
It's so aggressive. It's absolutely
So she becomes a recluse and sits in a chair beside a fireplace for a few months, and then eventually she's invited to come and speak at like a tribute event for him.
I guess a friend or manager of hers comes up and says, if you continue to sit here, you are destroying the one thing you left behind, which is your career.
Yeah.
And this, like, while an aggressive statement is made at the time, it kicks her back into gear.
So she rocks up to this event and she just says, hello, everybody. This is Mrs. Norman Maine. And then the crowd cheers and then it says the end. Weird ending. It's funny because you think she's going to sing. Because the other two women do in the other movies. But
and like there's so many songs beforehand.
Yeah. This is Mrs. Norman Maine is a funny note to end on. I'm not really sure what we're meant to take away from that. But she's obviously reemerging with her own stardom and her own career, but with his legacy.
Again,
attached,
is there other versions that had a song and they were just like, probably not known to the public? But
who knows? Her character in this is called Esther Blodgett. And when she goes to Hollywood, they rename her Vicky Lester. Which is funny because they go from Esther to Lester. Yeah. And then his name is Norman Maine, and I believe that Norman Maine...
grandfather of Jackson Maine.
Yeah, exactly. So Norman Maine is also the name... These are the exact same character names as the 30s version.
Okay.
And then in the Streisand version, they are called Esther Hoffman Howard and John Norman. Okay, completely different.
No, John Norman Maine.
John Norman? Yeah, okay.
And then they kept the Esther.
And then they go Jackson Maine.
Yeah,
it's interesting. It's an interesting like development of names over time. I think the main thing being kept is great, and also our great opening quote. I just want to take another look at you, which is
that is a voice I did not know could come out of you just there.
Really?
Oh, there was some weird rumblings that
talking like this. I don't know. Yeah. Brendan likes to send me voice messages about should I take another look at you about once every 2 months. So shout out to Brendan.
No. James Mason, in his ways, says this in a very creepy way.
Of course, he's I'm a creepy man.
His eyes are open the entire time, and I don't think his mouth closes when he talks.
Not at all. So no one's ever won an Oscar.
Want to take another look at you.
No one's ever won an Oscar for playing James Mason, but
Robert Forster.
He was, of course, played by John Hamm on Blake. He's played by John Hamm on Saturday Night Live in a great sketch where Kristen Wiig is playing Gloria from Sunset Boulevard. Yeah. Bill Hader's playing Vincent Price. It's like Vincent Price's Halloween party.
You stopped the film halfway through to shows. No, there was it.
There's an intermission,
and you used the intermission to put this on. Yeah, you're like,
it's fantastic. Like Bill Hader's Vincent Price is very good and very famous, but Vincent Price is kind of easy to impersonate because he's a cartoon character. Yeah. Whereas John Hamm, I didn't know he had this in him. He is fantastic as James Mason, and he's there with his whiskey, and he's like,
"Darling, I pissed myself on the way."
It's brilliant. It is, but it's funny. James Mason's two main characteristics in the public consciousness are heavy drinking and sexual predator, and I feel like both of these things are not reflections of his true character.
No,
and are not actually in most of his films. It's really just a couple of his most famous roles. So,
do we have any modern kind of guys who only play pests?
There are. Jeremy Irons did a remake of Lolita, so he's an easy one to jump to as an obvious one. I would say Jeremy Irons is trying very hard to be James Mason.
Yeah.
Who has been a Bond villain? That's the category you're thinking of, you know? I mean, Mark Rylance is a much warmer actor, tries to be. Branagh, obviously, would
Waltz
probably...
isn't a million miles
Waltz
away.
isn't a million miles away. No, that's a good shout.
He's got that kind of...
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. None of these guys I want to compare to James Mason in terms of their talents, but yes, certainly they're in the same pool. They're all guys, I'm sure, who are indebted to him. I'm sure Kevin Spacey would tell you he's indebted to James Mason.
Sure.
He's an actor's actor that all these guys would love.
Kevin Spacey's probably a
reasonable enough, but Kevin Spacey tried too hard to be handsome leading man, you know. Yeah. But James Mason, I love very much. First introduced him, of course, from his role in North by Northwest, one of my favorite films, as Van Damme. He fucking is such a lightning bolt in that movie when Cary Grant gets dragged out to his mansion, not 10 minutes into the movie, under the guise that he is George Kaplan, and James Mason is like, "You're absolutely George Kaplan, the man I've been looking for." And he pops up a couple times, you know. He sort of is at the auction scene in the middle, and then is this great final stretch where he is, because Eve Marie Saint is his accomplice, but like a double agent accomplice, you know, like she's romantically involved with James Mason, but she's working on behalf of the good guys. But it ends obviously at his house up at the mountains near Rushmore, where Cary Grant is kind of sneaking around and he's about to steal the fucking, 5D optical drive or whatever with all the files on. There's a lot of Mission Impossible in North by Northwest.
There's a little chasing trinkets, like.
Yeah. But I have always made the case, North by Northwest comes out in 1959 and the Bond movies start within a couple of years of that. And I've always made the case that the action, the characterization in North by Northwest really does set the template for the Bond movies as much as the Bond novels obviously do. But I think James Mason's performance in that is like the prototype for a Bond villain. Sexy, creepy guy, very charismatic, lurks around the edges of the film, doesn't have to have his own scenes on his own necessarily, but is like a great just like having like a fancy Englishman say evil things can be a really good boost to a espionage film.
Yeah, had that not really been a thing prior to that?
People could probably phone in and tell me I'm wrong, but Hitchcock movies don't typically have like a good guy and a villain in this way. The villains in Hitchcock movies tend to be like serial killers and stuff.
Sure.
Not like a criminal mastermind with goons. Like he has goons. Martin Landau is one of his goons. Like
number one goon.
Brilliant goons. Like it's so he's a Bond villain, a Mission Impossible villain of a certain type. Sean Harris knew James Mason. Yeah. I hadn't seen Lolita until a couple of years ago, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh my God, of course this is the fucking James Mason classic performance. This is 3 years after North by Northwest. He plays Professor Humbert. It's obviously based on the classic novel, but Lolita is so good, and like people definitely avoid it because it's like a nonce movie, but it's such a good movie. It's my favorite Kubrick. He is playing a very creepy guy pursuing a teenage girl, but it's like, again, James Mason is so charismatic that you're watching this guy, and it takes a while for you to click with like, oh, this is just a really awful pedophile. Like,
there's no redeeming features here.
No. But like he's also playing a lot of games with the mother, played by Shelley Winters, incredible actress, and he's got like so much creepiness, but just like brilliant like version of a creep that you can't take your eyes off of. He's 3 Oscar nominations, I believe, and no wins, which is a shame. I think should have had several under his belt. He got nominated for this in 1954, and then 12 years later he gets nominated for a movie called Georgie Girl. So I watched this about a month ago at this point. This is actually very similar to Lolita, but like played more positively.
Okay.
I guess the girl in this is a little bit older. Sorry, she's 22. Fine. But he's noticeably older. He's gone grey in this, and he's got a mustache. And he's a fancy London man who is pursuing a young Lynn Redgrave, who is Georgie Girl. And she's, I'm Georgie Girl. And he's like, oh, Georgie Girl, would you like to be my wife? Similar movie to this, Peter Finch in Girl with Green Eyes, which is the kind of the Dublin version of Georgie Girl. Right. But Georgie Girl is like a comedy. I thought it was kind of weak, actually. I didn't really like it. But, he's good in it. I don't know why he got an Oscar nomination for it. Anyway. And then he gets his final Oscar nomination another 14 years later. So they're all spaced out in 1982 for The Verdict, the Sidney Lumet movie with Paul Newman, where he plays bastard defense lawyer, basically. He's representing his law firm, or representing like a chemical company. I literally watched this like 10 days ago. I should remember.
Oh, sorry, was I watching this with you?
Yeah, you watched some of this with me. Is it a chemical company? It's something where you're like, oh, fuck these guys. Oh, sorry. It's a hospital that's been responsible for a woman being killed.
Yeah,
from a dodgy anesthetic thing.
Yes, and I had the Irish nurse come in and say,
yeah.
It was 1 or 9. Yeah.
So James Mason is basically just set up as Newman's opponent, and it is just a very satisfying opportunity to watch Newman and Mason like throw shots at each other. And it's not really a film I found particularly riveting, but like I'm glad that James Mason and Paul Newman got to be in like a bunch of scenes together. But he does win Best Actor, Musical or Comedy at the Golden Globes for A Star Is Born.
Hell yeah.
Other James Mason performances I'd like to shout out very quickly.
The 2018 Star Is Born, where was that nominated Golden Globe wise?
That would have been a musical or comedy, because I think they would have classified it as a musical. Because it's much less competitive in the Golden Globes to be considered a musical.
Oh, so it's the studio's choice.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
I think so. I think The Martian being in for comedy was the studio's choice. Now, James Mason's one of his best performances and one of the great performances, but also a little bit something I had misremembered was in the 1947 Carol Reed movie, Odd Man Out. I was shown this by my parents when I was younger, and I remember it being like 2 hours of James Mason stumbling around the alleyways of Belfast, dying, and that he gave a really incredible performance. And I rewatched it yesterday, and like he's only in certain chunks of the movie. There's long stretches where it goes off and gets distracted with other characters.
Yeah.
He's kind of one of 5 or 6 of an ensemble. So I was very surprised rewatching it that I was like, maybe this isn't the great James Mason leading performance I thought it was. But it is a really great film that I recommend people check out. 2 other films of his I've rewatched in the last couple of weeks, or watched for the first time. Bigger Than Life is a film where he plays a teacher who gets addicted to cortisone, and he just becomes an absolute nuisance to his family. Yeah. Where so it's like an addiction story, not dissimilar to A Star Is Born, but because it's not alcohol, but because it's cortisone, he's playing it really weird. So it's like a weird performance and a weird vibe, and I liked it a lot. And Walter Matthau plays one of the like evil doctors in it, and it's directed by Nicholas Ray. And then I watched.
I think I got I had cortisone injections once.
Well, you're going to turn into James Mason then.
Oh, no.
Yeah, what a nightmare. Oops. And then I watched...
I got the James Mason
injection. Mason injection. And then I watched another Lumet movie that he's in, which is The Deadly Affair, where he's playing George Smiley, basically. It's a John le Carré thing. The character's not actually called George Smiley, but it is incredibly George Smiley-esque. And then finally, he's in an amazing movie with Ava Gardner that is one of my parents' favorite films, and they've passed on their love of it to me, which is Albert Lewin's film Pandora and the Flying Dutchman, which is like this set in this like weird seaside town where there's all this like fantastical stuff going on, and there's like bullfighting, and James Mason plays like a sexy sea captain called Hendrik van der Zee, and he's great in it, and that's from 51. He's in lots of other stuff I haven't seen. I do hope to watch much more James Mason in my life. He starred in the TV miniseries of Salem's Lot in 1979, and he was in a lot of TV before he died, and he died at an okay age, but he looked great as an older man. He his neck got a bit skinnier, and he turned into kind of what Timothy Spall is now, I guess, for those kinds of roles, which was like a really fun way for him to end up. So that's James Mason. Judy Garland, one of the most iconic faces in film history. Obviously, she gets plucked out of obscurity with her sisters, the Garland sisters. Her real name, do you know any sense of what Judy Garland's real name is?
Oh,
it's a pretty funny one. It's up there with the Cary Grants of the world. Her real name is, of course, Frances Ethel Gum.
Sure.
She is cast in The Wizard of Oz when she's...
Frances Gum.
I don't know what age she is in The Wizard of Oz. 16.
Jesus.
Which is, she looks 16 in that. And that's like, I don't know, top 5 most iconic film performances ever, probably. You seen The Wizard of Oz?
Odd bits and pieces. I've never sat down and watched it.
Crazy. That's crazy. Although I would say not that rare. I feel like a lot of people think they've seen The Wizard of Oz and they haven't.
Yeah, you probably don't seek it out because you're like, I'm familiar enough with the story.
Yeah, like if you see Over the Rainbow and you see the first arrival in Munchkinland, the Yellow Brick Road and the Munchkins and all that, you probably think you've seen the whole film. Yeah. But I sat down and watched it for the first time.
I have watched Wild at Heart, so that's kind of...
Yeah, true. I sat down and watched Wizard of Oz for the first time in years, right around the time Wicked came out. Yeah. And I had completely blanked about the entire stretch of that film that's set in a like castle guarded by flying monkeys. Like there's like weird...
That's an image I have in my head.
There's like a prison they get locked in by the Wicked Witch. It's a weird movie. Obviously...
Is that something they show frequently in cinemas these days?
No, not really. It's on TV so much. It's not shown in cinemas. I think when Wicked came out, they should have shown The Wizard of Oz for weeks before.
Oh, yeah.
But it's amazing anyway.
Maybe for Wicked 2.
Maybe for Wicked 2 they will.
Wicked 2 for good. Or
Wicked for good, yeah.
2, yeah.
But so she's in that. She's very famous, very young, and unfortunately proceeds to be basically abused and mistreated like very few actresses have been worse. In the history of cinema, there's a lot of issues with her appearance being fucked around with, her weight. She's fucking on
that's
all sorts
even a
of...
bit of this. That's a part of this film.
Part of this film, yeah. There's a lot of her being given crazy drugs to keep her awake, keep her thin, this and that. Eventually, she dies because of, an overdose. It's just like incredibly depressing existence that she had, and managed to give incredible, lively, bursting with joy and energy performances in loads of films during that time. If you think you've seen Judy Garland be great and you want something that'll surprise you, the 1945 Vincent Minnelli movie The Clock is just extraordinary. And it's not a musical, even though Minnelli directed it, her husband at the time, and she stars in it with an actor whose name is currently escaping me, but I'll tell you in about 5 seconds. The guy from Strangers on a Train, whose name is, of course, Robert Walker. Yep. It's basically like a romantic comedy drama about a couple. He's a soldier and they meet in Grand Central Station in New York, and they have 24 hours before he has to go back to the war. It's very similar to On the Town, but they want to get married and they have to jump through all these bureaucratic hoops to get married because they have to get DNA tests and all this stuff and marriage licenses, and they run into Keenan Wynn in a bar and he's drunk, and it's an incredible film.
The Before Sunset kind of?
Yes, it's a kind of a Before Sunset meets After Hours meets whatever the other thing I just mentioned On the Town.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful. It's an amazing film. She's not singing in it. She's just playing a straight character, and she's amazing. So if you want to see a great Judy Garland performance, watch The Clock, which is so underrated. But her collaborations with Vincent Minnelli, father of her child, Liza Minnelli, are her best work, I think. Meet Me in St. Louis is incredible. And that's, of course, where Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas comes from.
Oh, wow.
And that is top tier Christmas song rotation on the radio is Judy Garland singing that song, and that comes from Meet Me in St. Louis, which is a beautiful, beautiful film. Some of that's set at Christmas, but it's like a year in the life of this family through the seasons, and it's great. She's in The Pirate with Gene Kelly, which I've just learned that today is like around the time that she has one of her worst nervous breakdowns. I know that thing that happened to her. She got electroshock treatment for depression in a sanatorium. It was just horrible shit they were doing to people in the 40s and 50s, and to women especially, of course. But she's in a few movies with Gene Kelly, The Pirate and Summer Stock, and they're a great pair together. And she's in Easter Parade with Fred Astaire, who replaced Gene Kelly in that movie last minute, but they're great in that together. Easter Parade's great as well. And she is involved in a lot of the political stuff that Gene Kelly was involved in, which we discussed before, such as standing up against McCarthyism and all of that. Like, she's really good on all of that. She was involved in stuff with Gene Kelly to oppose HUAC. I wanted to check out some of her more serious acting roles before this episode. So I watched this film called A Child is Waiting, which is a film directed by John Cassavetes, believe it or not, in 1963. And this is about a home for children with intellectual disabilities. And it stars her and Burt Lancaster and Gina Rowlands. And this film has more hard or words dropped than any film I've ever seen in my entire life that isn't a Jackass movie. Every reference to every child in this film involves the or word. But I did not like this film. I thought it was really like tragedy porn of the most explicit kind.
Yeah.
It's just presenting you with all of these children who have something wrong with them, and Judy Garland being like, we've got to help him, where are his parents? And Burt Lancaster being like, his parents don't give a shit, they haven't been here in years. And it's so depressing. Christina honestly wouldn't watch past the opening credits because they were so depressing, which is like children's drawings with sad choir singing over it. Like, this movie is just torturously miserable, and Judy Garland being in it doesn't help with that, unfortunately. She is also in this movie Judgment at Nuremberg, about the Nuremberg trials with Spencer Tracy and all sorts of people, which I've been meaning to watch, but it's like 3.5 hours long. I'll get around to it. Yeah, that's kind of Judy Garland. Like, she's in a lot of fun other musicals, but, you know, you read up and you're like, well, during the production of many of these things, she was really, really suffering. A Star is Born was presented as a big comeback for her, and it did do, you know, somewhat well. She got an Oscar nomination, but she didn't win. I wonder if she had won an Oscar for this, would that have been a sort of affirmation that might have boosted her career in other ways? I don't know. She never received a competitive Oscar, but in 1939, the year of The Wizard of Oz, she did win an Academy Juvenile Award. They presented 12 of these in total in history, and they presented them to people like Shirley Temple, Mickey Rooney, Judy's frequent co-star, Margaret O'Brien, and the final person to ever win one in 1960 was the great Hayley Mills, most recently seen in M. Night Shyamalan's Trap. Love Hayley Mills. Hopefully we'll discuss her on the podcast at some point. They haven't given one out since. Do you think they should bring back the Academy Juvenile Award and give it to, like, you know, After Sun Girl, Florida Project Girl, these great child performances? Or should these kid actors be left out of the awards conversation and just go back to school and live their lives? Mix of both.
Are you against them being included in the regular acting Oscars?
No, of course they should be included, but they're never going to get regular Oscars because they're just too competitive.
They obviously can't campaign either.
I mean, you get the odd Saoirse Ronan, Abigail Breslin nomination, but for Quvenzhané Wallace, but it's very rare. I feel like the Frankie Corios and whatnot of the world deserve some recognition.
Are you opening up an opportunity there for excessive use of child actors to try and
win another Oscar. Yes, maybe. Yeah, maybe. And pushing them to campaign as well, which you don't want. You don't want child actors to spend time campaigning for Oscars. It's a stupid, cynical way.
If a child actor goes completely off the grid after the one great performance, it's not the end of the world.
Well, I'm always glad to see it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. They don't have critical whatever award success.
If Eller Coltrane won the Academy Juvenile Award in 2014, they could have given him 12 little Oscars for every year he shot on Boyhood.
Yeah, and like 20 years later, when they're filming like juvenile Oscar winner Eller Coltrane.
I know, yeah. Maybe someone doesn't want to be labeled a juvenile Oscar winner.
I know, yeah.
Anyway, Judy Garland, she's great. She's very important. She's obviously an icon in the gay world, and she produces a daughter, Liza Minnelli, who is honestly, arguably an even greater movie star. So thank you, Judy, for that. And also was married to Vincent Minnelli, a man who people also speculate may have been closeted gay man, but who cares? A great director, and hopefully, was kind to her. The Letterboxd top 4 game for this film. I have found someone called Mia, username Pinuki on Letterboxd, and these are her top 4 films. This is number 2. Number 1 is a Disney animated classic from the year 1940. I believe it is the second or third Disney animated film ever.
Yep.
I love this film. I've given it 5 stars. I think it's incredible, and it features a song that is still used in the Disney, fanfare logo today.
It's like a Beauty and the Beast.
Nope. Beauty and the Beast is a film from the 1990s, Shane.
Oh, whoops. So this is 1940. 1940. Oh, what are the 40s?
They did a live-action remake of this 3 years ago that went directly to Disney Plus, but it wasn't
101 Dalmatians?
No. It went straight to Disney Plus, but it had a huge director and huge actor involved. It is one of the worst films I've ever seen. This, however, 5-star masterpiece.
Shoot.
The main character is a little boy. Or is he?
A little boy who's also a man.
No. He's made of
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
Yes.
When you wish
I really don't associate Pinocchio with being a Disney thing.
Disney fanfare. It's public domain, but
yeah.
But they own the song. Number 2, favorite film is A Star Is Born. Number 3 is a 1989 threequel in a big franchise, directed by a very big filmmaker. It stars the main character of this franchise plus an older famous actor shows up as his dad. It's the two of them on the poster.
Ooh.
So it's like, what if this character had a dad?
Is this an action thing?
Yes.
And is this like a Beverly Hills Cop?
Nah, more family friendly than that. And his dad was played by, a very iconic actor from 25 years ago.
Is this involve police?
No. This is like, the director is like, huge director.
Huge director?
Yeah.
Currently still a huge director?
Always a huge director.
Is this a Back to the Future?
No. Huger director.
James Cameron.
Huger director.
Are we talking physically large?
No, I'm talking the hugest, the most famous, iconic, wealthiest director. Spielberg.
Oh, sorry. Fucking Back to the Future.
This is the only threequel Spielberg has ever made, so that should be easy.
Is it a Jurassic?
No, it's not. This film is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade with Harrison Ford and Sean Connery. Her fourth favorite movie is an animated film from 2023 that was the second highest grossing film worldwide of 2023 after Barbie. Made more money than Oppenheimer. Nope, 2023.
2023.
Made more money than Oppenheimer. We watched it in this house. It was absolutely terrible.
Frozen?
No, absolutely terrible. Based on a popular IP from a different medium.
Video game?
Yes.
Oh, Super Mario Bros.
The Super Mario Bros. Movie. All right, those are her top 4.
Yeah.
Do you have the 1970, 1950, whatever box office?
Is it 54? Up? Sorry.
Yeah.
I do. It's not in it, which makes me wonder if this is the right year.
1954?
Yeah.
Let's go with it anyway.
This is on Wikipedia.
So you have the biggest movies of the year.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do top 5 very quickly.
Okay.
This episode has run inexplicably long. Okay.
This is a seasonal film.
White Christmas.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Next up is potentially something to do with a ship Yes, it is boat themed.
Yes,
you've got a.
Sorry. Speaking of boat themed, I should mention that James Mason was in Journey to the Center of the Earth and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Okay.
He was in like Disney adventure movies as
Jesus.
the Sea Captain Man.
Okay.
Anyway, boat themed.
This got Humphrey Bogart as the lead.
Okay,
Lieutenant Commander Philip Francis Queeg.
Right. Okay.
Remember the name Queeg.
So it's okay. So it's not the African Queen.
Nope.
It's a Humphrey Bogart. It's a military boat movie.
Yeah.
It's not the Key Largo.
U.S. naval captain shows signs of mental instability that jeopardizes his ship. His first officer relieves him.
Mutiny on the Bounty.
The Cane Mutiny.
Oh, so close.
Very close.
What's Mutiny on the Bounty then? I thought that had Humphrey Bogart in it.
Maybe it does.
No, it doesn't. Mutiny on the Bounty is from 1962 and stars Marlon Brando. There you go.
Next up, we got another one of the big boys. We got a J. Stew.
Is it Western?
Nope.
Oh, I also
need to mention
Judy Garland had a love affair with fucking Orson Welles.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, it's Jimmy Stewart, and what's he doing on the poster?
Their love made such wonderful music. It looks like a songwriter and performer.
This movie is it's a biopic of it's called shit.
The guy's name story.
Something. It's called Night and Day.
No, this is the Glenn Miller story.
Oh shit! Yeah, sorry. He's also in a biopic of famous American songwriter called Night and Day.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the Glenn Miller
two
story.
More.
They should just call shit now the something story.
Yeah, sure.
The Whitney Houston story. Why not?
Okay. Next up, we have a bunch of white people playing people from another country.
Fantastic. What's the country?
Ancient, whatever.
Is it like Ben-Hur, the Ten Commandments?
Yeah.
It's like that?
The title is just the name of the country the guy from. So like, not the Irishman, not the American, not the...
okay. The Greek?
Close.
The Egyptian?
The Egyptian.
I have no idea what that is.
We got Edmund Purdom.
Okay.
Victor Mature.
Nah, fake movie.
Michael Curtis.
He's a director, no? I don't know. Keep going anyway.
Next one is one of the all-time known films.
And it's only number 5. One of the all-time known films.
Yeah. If you ask somebody...
What are the
5 films?
What are the films?
What are the movies?
What? It's Singing in the Rain.
No. It's another J. Stew. It's one of his more iconic roles.
It's a Wonderful Life.
No. Okay, fine.
What's this other Jimmy
Rear
Stewart?
Window.
Oh, Rear Window. Okay, yeah, sure. That's not one of the
I know
the all-time known films, but
sure.
It's in the top 50. Sure,
it's in the top 50.
All right, great. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to this inexplicably long episode about a film from the 1950s.
Well, it's an inexplicably long film.
It is, and the episode had to match. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. Thank you to James Mason, Judy Garland. Be back. I don't know. I'm tired, folks. Come back next week for more Boy Party. Get home safe. Do not walk into the sea. Find all our episodes at boypartypod.com. Follow Boy Party Pod on Instagram and at Blue Sky. Bye bye. Hey, I just want to listen to an episode with you.